Hello, and welcome to our second call in a series of conversations that are centered around activating and facilitating FEEL, which is the year-long program that we participated in. And I say we because it is a group creation, is what it ends up being. Um, but we did the very first iteration of that at last year, ended it last year, and we have the next iteration of AFF starting up in April. These conversations are with people who participated in the first year of activating and facilitating FEEL, just because it's so rich. The expansion, the evolution is not something that can be put in a bullet list of what do you get from this course, who is this course for, all of the marketing things. It does not fit nicely into the marketing things. So we thought we would offer these conversations to not only share any kind of uh, focus or content, but to also just continue to share the ease of conversation, the ease of self-awareness, the ease of self discovery in real organic conversations, and hope that that's helpful, hope that it's inspiring for anybody really who is interested in doing this migration from the head integrating through the heart, or as we like to say, to have a little chat with the mayor of Thinky Town and give him a job that actually serves the whole. So our conversation today, and with me today, is Jane Sportelli, who I can't wait to actually listen to Jane and what she wants to share with us, because Jane, there's so many things I love about playing with you in within AFF and just anytime we connect, but like not the least of which is I love how your mind puts concepts together. And I know you might say, I don't know if I'm being clear, if I sound clear or not, but the way you express yourself is always, it always leaves me like, oh, that was good. So I'm just really, really glad that you're here. And thank you. And I would love for you to um, just say hello, introduce yourself. How would you like us to know you? And we'll start there.
Sure. No, thanks, Carrie. So, as Carrie said, my name is Jane Sportelli, and I have been part of the AFF journey as a collaborative group for the last year or so. And my interest in being part of this was really wanting to develop a sense of myself that I always played with and basically was my compass in life. But not having other people really, other than some very close friends, to really share certain experiences, to have the opportunity of having a group of people, of like-minded people who are interested in sort of developing their sense of intuitive feel in life and how you relate to whether it's horses or other people, whether you're teaching or coaching or being taught or being coached. Um, it it was a huge, expansive yes for me. So looking back over the year, I've really learned a lot. I mean, primarily what has been amazing for me is having concrete tools to navigate a lot of feels that come up. And instead of getting stuck here, to have a roadmap is the wrong word, but have confidence in trying particular um, methods that this course and group and Carrie has guided us in to really connect that my head, and I can be very atypical. I mean, sort of A-type personality is what I'm trying to say, and very regimented and very stuck in my head in a lot of ways. Yeah, I've always really connected and recognized an intuitive sense of how I go through the world, but they were really quite here and here. And what this last year has done is created a bridge.
Mm.
And I've been continuing to work on it, and it's brought and opened up an amazing level of my work in the horse world. I work with horses, and I also work with the horses owners. And I have my license in Massachusetts, but I don't do conventional teaching per se. Um, and I will work with any combination of horse, human, or simply just with the horse. And through the process of getting more in touch with myself and pulling out sort of a thread of trusting in the moment and not overthinking, I have found that I'm so almost speechless at times, because every horse I work with in every capacity, I show up without a plan. I mean, I have a rough plan of certain things, but you're operating from here, and you get into a flow state, and everyone is different. And I'm sort of helping the owners as well, as I go through. I'm excited about empowering other people to connect on this level with themselves and with their horses. And, I guess, just for instance, a very recent current scenario that I'm going through right now is I'm working with a very anxious mare who is very sweet, but she really, her mind is completely over the moon, and her body is on the other side of the fence. And it escalated to such a degree where she was running over her owner, and the main instructor of the facility that I work at, like, really didn't know what to do, and sort of threw up their hands. Anyway, long story short, I didn't have a strategy other than trying to reach her, and I broke things down in a very um uh, like the horse was telling me, essentially. And I know that sounds a bit interesting, but again, through this course, through Carrie, through everyone else that are my colleagues, so to speak, and my friends that I've developed over the year on this journey, will understand and have really helped me believe in the moment. And I'm able to, like, reach down through that rope, whether it's a rope halter or a set of reins, and the horse feels me. And I'm not making it up. There's a true change in the attitude, and it's not obedience. I'm not after getting the horse to be obedient. I'm trying to reach through my sense of feel, that the horse feels me back, and recognizes that there is a two-way street. And so I've made some really wonderful progress with this mare just being able to come back into her own body. Interestingly enough, her owner is a equine veterinarian, and was really pretty skeptical um, of this, and just didn't quite understand it, and let me work with her mare on my own for a while. And then when she came back and started seeing the results, she was really curious about, well, how are you doing it? What are you doing? And it's hard to explain. I mean, the reason this is a year-long course is because it's not a quick fix. It's not a quick fix within yourself and with the people, or the other than human beings that you're trying to relate to and reach out to. It is not something that you wake up one morning and it's just there. It's a process. It's a very personal process. And it's super exciting going through it, because you begin to uncover and peel back layers of your own capacity. And it's an amazing feeling to know that you are communicating and you are reaching out in a way that transcends words. So I use this every day. And in a particular way too, I was also, when I was working with the owner, I was really trying to keep an open, and you can say that intellectually, like, oh, no judgment zone. But then when your buttons are pushed and certain triggers are being trigged, so to speak, you can easily fall back into like, oh, they're not understanding me, or just excuse of, whatever. You fill in the blank. But through this work, it has been an incredible opening of being in the moment, reserving judgment because it feels like it's the better option, and because I'm curious how it will go. I don't know how it's going to go, but I can tell you it always ends up being the right thing for that situation, the dynamic between myself and the person or people. And again, like, you just walk away with a sense of fulfillment, and that you created a footprint
Mm.
that mattered in the situation, not just to you, but who you're touching. And I know that might sound a little touchy feely, but that's is truly my experience. And you can play with it and at your own will and time and place, but it does require you to be honest with yourself. And I don't think I could have done this work if I was living in a state of like, yeah, I have all the answers and I'm curious, but yeah, no, I guess I needed to be vulnerable. So
That it, of all
yeah.
everything you just shared is so beautiful, and the thing that's like was when you just said that you get to when you're bringing your heart and you're working this way and organizing yourself this way, whatever's happening in the moment, you end up just being curious for what's going to happen next, which is very different than
Mm.
prepared to deal with what's happening next. Will you talk about that difference between like being
Yeah.
curious what's going to happen versus being prepared? Because are they
Yes.
different from each other? Are they two different things, or what are those about? What do you see in those
It
two?
feels very different. And in that, I guess let me just backtrack a little bit. My career primarily has been as a producer, so I'm used to making things happen. You have to make things happen. You have to stick to a deadline. You have to make sure that from A to Z things connect and they go as planned. So there's a plan, there's a vision, there's a plan, there's an execution. And you might have to improvise in between, but there is very little wiggle room for really, really improvising and just showing up and being curious, like, how is this going? It's almost like a foregone conclusion. You set something up and you expect the execution of it to happen. The, and I operated that way in life, and with my friends, with my husband, with my horse, with a number of, like, all my interactions. What is really interesting and amazing about this is that you are surrendering control. And it's scary to a certain degree because I could be teaching and saying something to the person I'm working with. And I can see that they're not wanting to understand it, they're not wanting to get it, or they just simply don't, or they disagree with me. And it's being aware enough in that moment where it's a choice. I make the choice to not regurgitate out what I think is the right thing to do, what I see happening, and how I can fix it if they would only listen to me. And instead, I often make the choice to just ask a different question or prompt them in a different way and do something that is not predictable, but that is still addressing what needs to be addressed in the moment. And the result of that often is that the person softens, or they get it, or they oddly feel more included in the whole scenario, rather than being taught at or taught to or told they're wrong, or like it just sort of excludes a lot of judgment. And I don't know, it just magically happens. It's just, it's, you just need to be honest and take, I guess, take the, I don't like coming across, I mean, we, none of us really like coming across as the fool. Um, and so it really took a lot for me to be vulnerable enough to say, this really, I may walk away from this completely embarrassed. And there were some times where it just didn't quite work, but then I guess I needed to hear that and have that happen. And but again, through the tools of this program, it's not really a program, through the journey that it will take you on, you learn strategies that you can pull from, and then you make them your own. And what I do versus like what Chloe or Libby or Tess may do, or Wayne, it's similar, but we personalize it. And that's the beauty of this. It's like you have a canvas and you're being taught the color palette and how to create textures, but then you can begin to start playing with it in a way that really matters to you. And it is hard to explain. It's something you have to go through. It's a feeling you have to go through.
Thank you. So,
Um,
yeah, I want to circle back to talking about giving up control, but I love what you're saying right now. Um, just because pulling back the curtain, that's what I do when I show up to facilitate. To me, that's what facilitation is. What you just described about, having a student who's resistant or doesn't want to hear it or can't hear it, whatever the reason is, to be organized, to have awareness that this isn't a battle. They're not trying to battle me. And even if they are, I'm not going to battle back. What can I do? And that to me is totally the heart of facilitation is, okay, well, then what can I do? And it is, it's so funny because we talk about giving up control as if it's, scary or bad. And yet, when we see somebody facilitating beautifully and magically, oh, it's like all the space opens up, and you're like, wow, that, I want more of that. So let's talk about what's in between giving up control and actually moving and relating to oneself in facilitation, a facilitative way, right? Like, what is it about giving up control? What are we giving up when we give up control?
Predictability, safety, a perceived, for me, I'm speaking for myself, a perceived sense of false safety.
So say more about that,
Ness.
because I was going to come back to safety anyway, because that's such a fancy word, but who knows what it means, right? Like, we can pretend we're safe all the time. Are we looking for external safety, or is it something internal?
It's for me, it's a matter, the difference really is that you're working within a boundary that through the external um, assessment of what you're doing, or again, comes back to judgment. By taking a leap and not, and sort of just surrendering and taking the risk in not knowing the outcome, you really can't rely on the external. You have to rely on the internal. And it's sort of like a compass. It just keeps pointing north. It just keeps reorienting back to you. There's no wiggle. You can't fool it. So that's what's both beautiful and hard and intriguing about the whole process.
Mhm.
So it's like there's no way you can fake doing it. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I don't know if that fully answered your question, but
Oh, I don't either. I'm just tossing some stuff
yeah.
out that sounds interesting, right? Yeah, I love that you pointed, like, it, the word in my mind is self-referencing.
Mm.
What, like, if in moments when I don't have control, like transcendent sort of moments or an emergency sort of a moment, our innate systems are designed to just go right back to function, and our senses come online, and we're more aware, and we're more clear, right? I think a long time ago I started sort of exploring in myself, like, how do I have clarity without survival mode? Do I need to be in a state of deathly threat in order to feel clear and at home in my body? Like, what's that about? I'll have that, right? And ultimately that's part of what's behind all the tools, is to be able to generate that clarity
Mhm.
and have no need for this thing called safety. Because when it comes right down to it, when I'm standing in front of somebody and trying to offer them a technique or teach them because they showed up and asked for, some teaching, right? And then they are resistant, or, have had people just tell me, oh, no, that's wrong. Like, okay, well, then you clearly know, right? But to go outside the bounds, the safe, that safety, to go outside the expected banter, to step outside of a predictable rhythm, it changes how it feels in our body. We can feel something
Mhm.
different happening there. And so the thinker often interprets that as unsafe because it feels like this, not like this, right? So what we get to do when we prioritize this self-referencing is ask, okay, I feel vulnerable. This is vulnerability, the feeling. This is a feeling that the mayor might say is unsafe. So what I'm going to do is look around and see if I'm actually in danger. See if there's anything here that's actually threatening my health, my physical being, right? My ability to eat, my ability to move around the planet, because those are the things that are really related to actual, for realsies, safety, right? Emotional safety, absolutely, it's a thing. But it's a thing, like you said, Jane, it's a thing that we end up coming back to ourselves for. If I expect my student to do something in a way that makes me feel emotionally safe, that's muddy water, isn't it?
Completely. Yep. Yep.
If I'm teaching my student so that I feel good about I mean, of course you want to feel good, but if my self esteem is hinged on my student treating me in a way that makes me feel good about myself, it's just an emotional entanglement. And I think
Mhm.
a lot of people operate there. I think a lot of people operate there because as kids, that's what life was like. And we didn't have the clarity, the tools, the awareness, the
Mhm.
words, the structure, the support, right? To disentangle ourselves. And so it became
Yeah.
the way, it became who we think we are. Um, but even just moments of self referencing,
Mm.
we get a little taste of feel, no, this feels different. Oh yes, that feels like relief. That feels like relief. What was it like for you, Jane, in the beginning? Because I know when you first showed up you were like, nope, A-type personality, get it done, I'm in my head. And so
Mhm.
when you were first touching those vulnerable spots and first really giving yourself permission to try something different, what was that like for you?
I mean, in some ways, it was a really unknown feeling, and I had to sit with what that felt like. I mean, in some ways, it was scary, but in other ways, because it was sort of reorienting and rejiggering, reprogramming my relationship to myself or to whatever that scenario, how things were playing out. It's like you were being rewired in a sense. And some things were so unfamiliar. It was unfamiliar territory. And if I gave pause and just sat in it and didn't care about the outcome, I can remember starting a new job. It was actually a year ago. It was the beginning of February. Started a new job in January, and I was really nervous. And we had pretty much just started this year-long endeavor with everyone. And I every single day I was putting into practice.
Mhm.
I was scared about like what I was doing, and I didn't want to mess up. And I was learning new systems and interacting with people I had never met before, and I had a big public sort of face that was part of the company, and um, I was using these tools constantly because I it was a way of giving me a fresh perspective on success. it,
That's awesome. Because I mean, that just seems like a lot of people might not realize or might not ever think that using tools to reference your own self would result in a fresh perspective.
Mm.
Talk talk about that, please.
Well, it also gave me answers. Like a lot of times I would be caught between a rock and a hard place trying to figure out what was the best thing to do. And of course, I could employ like intellectual strategy and map things out. And it's not that I didn't do that. It wasn't like I threw the baby out with the bathwater and I went for one thing versus another, but it's a blending. But in using some of the new sort of techniques of listening to your gut, listening to your intuition, not doubting it, and staying in that place a little bit where you maybe are squirmy, like, well, I want the answer now, but you don't have it
That would
now.
never happen. Yeah, go ahead.
um, I found it's like relaxing a muscle.
When
Mm.
was Alberta
And
supposed to come?
when you do relax, when you finally sort of relax in that moment, then you start getting answers. Your own very direct answers to whatever you're trying to work through. Um, and it helped ease the sort of transition of a new job, a new place, new pressures. And I started just playing more and more with the tools like, well, if this got me here, what if I really start doing this? Um, and then using the tools even when I wasn't in a mode of like, I need the tool, but playing with it when I felt neutral or in a really good place to sort of perfect it or become more acquainted with it. Whether it was like mind watch the body or you're like breaking energy. Your Carrie has a number of things that are very clearly laid out that you can clearly grasp and then make it your own. And I started using those tools not only when I felt like I needed to, but when I felt like, oh, free time, I can just start playing and getting more acquainted with this. So when I really need it, it will be more familiar to me.
Yeah.
So it's like the world is your oyster with this sort of stuff. It's it's very cool
Well, thanks.
once you like dive in and you start swimming with it.
So I'm super curious for you then, as the tools became more resident for you and more integrated and more just part of how we move in the world. What was that like with respect to how you knew yourself before? Where I'm kind of getting with this is, did the tools take you towards something familiar in yourself that you thought you had lost, or did they produce something you never knew existed? What?
More the former than the latter, but definitely it reconnected me with like when we're younger, we all have probably some core fond memories of feeling freedom.
Mm.
And because choice is just part of who you are as a kid, and there aren't consequences. You're not looking at it that way. I mean, or really young when you're really young. And this helped me reconnect to my younger self And I mean, I was even smelling things I hadn't smelled in a long time, or
Wow.
going through parts of I'm from New England, but I live in Massachusetts and I'm from Connecticut. And when I would go home to see my mom, I would take some of the back roads, and they weren't necessarily back roads that I grew up on. But I can remember even coming back and talking to the people in the course at least once about how through going using the tools and sort of having this sort of whole sort of openness develop in me, it was bringing really wonderful, it wasn't, they weren't specific memories, but they were feelings
Mm,
of being out in a meadow. Even though I was driving by, I wasn't standing in a meadow underneath an oak tree, but as I was driving by, the smell and the feeling of being young again was palpable.
mm,
And it was because I started to play with these tools in a way that opened me up and reconnected myself with my younger self. And so it was like this familiar sort of threading. At the same time, there were times where, like, oh wow, I didn't know I could do that.
mm,
Oh, this is, and especially when it came to really connecting with non-human beings.
mm,
I mean, I always felt like, yes, I have a sense here, but you really do. We all really do. And it opened a door or a window that then became wider. And I went through it and then down a hall. Like it really opened stuff up in a way that was fascinating and sort of mind blowing to me.
mm.
So, and I wouldn't want to retract it. I mean, I like the world I live in right now and how I interact with myself and the world around me much better. And I was a happy person. It wasn't like that, a year ago I was miserable. It just added value to life.
Awesome.
So
Oh, thank
yeah,
you. So gorgeous. So, okay, we finished the first year and now our group is continuing into a second year, right? What do you want to play with? Like, what do you want to play with going forward? How is this helping you, you know, find a place to go forward from? What does going forward feel like to you right now?
I just really, so I'm going to sort of say I don't know, but I'm following my curiosity. Like I'm even more curious. Well, what is around the next corner, and how can I work with what I already know to again add dimension to it?
It's gorgeous.
So it's not like, oh, and I want this. It's like I want to grow my capacity for a greater understanding beyond myself,
Wow.
and then how it comes back to myself. And to find like-minded people who are willing and wanting to work on that level that support you. I mean, that I've met through our group are amazing, special, old souls. And we've gone through a lot individually and collectively. And there's there's no way you can go through this without coming out the other side, whatever that side is, in a way that is enriching and provocative.
Everybody over the year went through some hills and valleys. Everybody went through something monumental for themselves. And everybody put the tools, like applied the tools in their own way. And it really was remarkable how the transformation of everybody in the group. Like I'm the same, but I'm totally different. And it's just so beautiful to me. Like this is an enormous part of the joy of all of it for me is, when people say, what, ask you the question, what lights you up? For me, what lights me up is watching people go, oh,
Mhm.
huh. Like that's the coolest thing in the world for me. And then I can be like, oh, yes, that right there, right there.
Mhm.
And I absolutely love that you said that you feel like you're just curious about greater dimensions
Mm.
of life and of living, because that to me is like being curious about who am I really, right? What
Yeah.
this work, what it does, the work, whatever, that's why I say it's about organizing ourselves, because there isn't an end point, right? It's having the presence and the awareness and the willingness and the courage to notice how things are right now and
Mm.
then relax. Ultimate, like if you
Mhm.
want to make it really simple, that's all we're doing the whole time, regardless of circumstances. Like, okay, what is actual right now? And then relax, and new dimensions open up. So
Mm.
I wanted to share when I was like a teenager, um, and trying to figure out why, my parents were so stressed out. Why are humans like this? And people would recite spiritual platitudes and things like no pain, no gain, but then like that's weird. And but then people would, offer spiritual things that felt really amazing and really good. And so I started asking myself, because I didn't have anybody else to ask, like, what would it be like if you actually just did all the things everybody says are good to do for yourself? If you do relax, if you do breathe, if you do change your thought patterns, like, I wonder what would happen, right? And so from
Mm.
my teenage years, that's a huge foundation behind all of this stuff is,
Mm.
well, if I did apply things that really could work, I wonder if it would work. And so you're talking about having fun playing with the tools even when you don't need them, and just playing with it because you can, you know it's a way of being. It cultivates a way of being, and I
Mm.
think that is the whole point, is
Mhm.
not to be dependent on tools for the rest of my life anytime my emotions go sideways, but to use the tools until I don't need them anymore, because I've integrated myself and watched
Mm.
how that integration ripples into the world, right? To me, that's really
Yeah.
what it's about, is like, how simple can we let this be?
Mm.
How simple is it really? And how can I let myself see what's actually happening and then relax? Which, overly simplified because there's details, but when it becomes like curiosity driven
Mm.
and fun, it's not hard at all, even when it sucks.
Yeah. Mhm. Completely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel I'm a happier person. And that's what I guess I was hoping to get out of this when I initially was curious about doing it.
Yeah. I
Um,
remember.
and I use other techniques to, like, I meditate and everything, but it's this is integrated, as Carrie was saying.
Yeah, I remember at the beginning of last year, I remember so clearly you saying, I am committed. I am committed to this year. I'm
Oh,
doing it. I'm doing the
that's
whole
right.
thing
Yeah.
because something needs to change, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
It was
Yeah, I
adorable.
forgot I said that. Yeah, yeah,
And you've got such a different softness about you for yourself, which I think is the most beautiful thing. That's the most beautiful thing. If anybody has questions or comments or anything you'd like to ask me or share, you're welcome to raise your hand or do the little click the raise hand, if you like. Questions and sharing are always wonderful. Um, yeah, so it's one of the other of the million things I love about sharing this time with a group of people. Like, the first thing okay, so I'll share with this. Oh, there's all my thoughts all at the same time. What spending the year with all of you has shown me is the joy of facilitating for small groups. And it's not therapy, you know, we don't ever descend into group therapy because that's not the point, but it can be profoundly therapeutic to be in an environment where you get to speak in a way that feels real, and there are other people here there to hear you, right? There's a phrase that I love, that we listen each other into being. I love that phrase so much. When I don't need you to be happy or different than you are, or and when I don't need anything from you, you get all the space in the world to show up with as much as of yourself as you wish. And that to me is listening each other into being, which is what horses do for us. Hence horses, hello, you know, they don't require us to be different than we actually are. They might let us know, like, oh, this is good, what are we doing? Or they might go, ooh, gosh, okay, I'll be over there, you know. um and humans the same. The horses kicked me out of the nest long ago. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to read the writing that I just put out on Substack yesterday, but it's about part of it includes a little bit of how horses kept kicking me out of the nest, but they would always follow me, right? Get out of here, but we're never going to leave you. And to be able to feel heard, oh, there's a pun, right? To feel heard even when there's no horses immediately around me has been one of the greatest gifts I've ever had. And that was something I gave myself by refusing to live without the feeling of horses in my heart. That's why horses. And so what that's a huge foundation for where all these tools have come from, is what does it take to always be able to regenerate that feeling that somebody's listening and they don't need me to change who I am. And if there's no horses there, then that somebody is me, which I think is the real magic. I think it's what all the spirituality is for. I think it's what meditation is for. Ultimately, if any system we walk or try, if the system has merit, it will eventually spit you out the other side. Like, the whole point of the system is to get you to where you don't need it anymore. At least that is what I think. That's how I operate. Because then it's integrated, right? And it turns out that's actually a mathematical concept. I learned this recently, studying mathematics. Who knew I would ever be there? But there's a whole concept in mathematics that is exactly that. You use the equations and you use all of the mathematical linguistics, so to speak, as scaffolding to help you understand what you're trying to understand. And once you understand it, all the scaffolding goes away. You don't need it anymore. You just know that this little squiggle means this massive concept. And then you go forward, right? In a very real way, that's what we're doing. Is we're finger painting in all of the details and the concepts until we have an awareness of the feeling of wholeness within ourselves, that with mathematics, that parallels to understanding what that little squiggle means. So when I see the squiggle on the page, I know it means all these functions, right? And so that's what the tools do for us, is they take into account all the variables and functions of life. And then through that relaxation and organizing, we get to where we develop our own little inner mathematics, if you will, to where if I feel this emotion coming through, and I'm like, oh, that is this whole wild set of different functions happening. But here's my squiggle. Thank you. Got it. Right. It just is, it's simplifying in that way. And in a group of people who, like you said, who are like-hearted and all committed to themselves in similar ways, it's a remarkable space to share in and explore in. People don't need you to be different than you are. We're basically sitting in a herd of horses with one another and just going, oh my God, can you believe the line at Walmart today? Right? Not really. But, whatever your bad day consists of, or your good day. Yeah, it's beautiful stuff. Jane, thank you so much for sharing so much today. Is there anything else you would like to offer or share or ask while we're here?
No, I mean, the only parting thing is you sort of just said that this has been a year-long conversation, and it organically evolves, and you participate, you do. Um, and it's not even a matter of to what degree, you are part of the ebb and flow of what is going on. And it's just been a really eye-opening, heart-opening, growth-oriented ride
Mm.
that, I'm curious to see how. And I love what you're saying, Carrie, in terms of, like, really the point for me as well, the point of any experience like this, or any even if you're subscribing to a particular spiritual methodology, is to help you get through or get to the other side more whole. Not that you're less than and you need something to empower your or validate your existence, but these tools and the group and the conversations and the things we've been through and my curiosity and how it's developed and has helped me become a greater resource for myself, which for me personally is the point of life.
Right. Yeah.
Because then you're able to reach out and become a resource for your immediate surroundings, and
Right.
you become more integrated.
Yeah.
um
Who and you don't have to name names, but who are the kind of people who might uh, be repelled by this kind of space? Like, who doesn't, who would not choose to come and play in this
i
space?
I think people who really just don't want change are very comfortable with stasis. They've made friends with stasis. They don't see it as a negative, and it's forget negative, positive. They see it gives them comfort,
Right.
and they have, again, sort of no. This is not a judgment. It's an observation, and maybe I'm not seeing it clearly, but the curiosity, there isn't curiosity. There is a drive for familiarity and what they can feel, touch, smell, immediately hear, and it the idea of just being within a confined, comfortable boundary
Mm.
is this course is. I mean, it's not that this course is uncomfortable, but it you're stretching at times. You are stretching, and
Totally.
so
Yes.
yeah. If
Yes.
you don't want to, if you're good with your head down in the sand, then so be it. All the more power to you. But this is not your bailiwick then.
Right. Yeah. Comfort is not a deliverable in this program. We don't, and I joke about it all the time. Comfort is, we're not promising comfort, never promising comfort. but that doesn't mean that it's always hair on fire, skin burning off either, you know. It's not. And in fact, what we end up doing is having a different relationship with discomfort, so that
Mhm.
when we recognize, ooh, that's uncomfortable, guess what clicks in? The curiosity, rather than the judgment that discomfort is bad, or the fear that because it's a familiar discomfort, then that means the same old thing is going to happen again. We
Mhm.
actually walk right up to those things and say, okay, let's do familiar things in a different way. And that is what opens the learning space. And it's just so much fun. It's just it's so, and that's how I walk through the world now. It's like, okay, where's the, I don't go seeking out discomfort. There's plenty of it. I don't need to seek it out. But to be able to stand and walk right up to it and say, ooh, teach me something, you know, it is a different
Mhm.
way of walking
Mhm.
in the world when you have that
Yeah.
self orientation, you know, that self confidence. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jane. I'll
Yeah.
just
Thank you.
open it one more time if anybody has any thoughts or questions, anything you want to offer. Um, I just appreciate so much. You know, it's not lost on me that I have this privilege and honor of facilitating these kinds of spaces and these kinds of conversations. Um, Clearly, I have some contribution to why it all works out this way, but I will just tell you, regardless of context, this that feeling is where we always end up. That feeling of, okay, okay, let's go. That's where we always end up. And it's amazing. So um yeah, I guess that's all I got. Thank you. Just thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing so much, Jane. And I will look forward to seeing you next week when we gather for our 2.0. Thanks. And thank you guys, everybody, for being here and joining us in the conversation, even though it was my voice and Jane's voice. The whole creates the whole. So I appreciate all
Mhm.
of you guys, and to everybody who might be watching the recording as well. Thank you guys all for being here.
Bye. Thanks.